Hello, cosmic beings out there. I'm Mannah, a therapeutic astrologer and interviewer. I'm passionate about learning and sharing insights on how to live a better life. I hope you'll stick around as I infiltrate the minds of thought leaders, authors, and healers from around the globe. Wherever you find yourself right now, dear listener, I want you to remember that you have a place to call whole. Now, please enjoy this episode. Okay, let's tap in. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Mannah, and today we are tapping into soul messages because we are talking to Kim Chamberlain, who is a channel and who is one of the contributors to the book Channeled Soul Messages, Guidance for Thriving in the World Today. And in the book, it also says that it's a profound collection of soul messages channeled by 7 unique female authors from diverse backgrounds. And then one of them is our guest today, who is also an author of over 12 spiritual and personal development books. So yeah, welcome, Kim Chamberlain.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Does it do you justice with that introduction? Is that what you do the most? Is that that you are an author and a channel?
Yeah, I think channeling is what I seem to now do most of the time in various forms. And it was interesting when I had my website developed. It was a friend of mine, and she develops spiritual websites. And she said, "How do you want to describe yourself?" And I said, "Well, I actually don't know." And so she described me as an author and a spiritual channel. And I thought, yeah, that feels really right. Yes, that's a good description.
Right. What would you have said if not a channel? What would you have framed it as?
I guess I would have said, well, when people say, "What do you do?" I don't use a noun, I use a verb. I say, "I give readings and I write." So something along those lines.
Great. And you also say in the book that part of your life purpose is to provide information and create services that didn't exist before to the benefit of the community. But I like that
Yeah.
it didn't exist before. So
Yes.
yeah, you're feeling that innovation in yourself as well.
I really like the quote, and it's, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead and make your own path," that kind of thing. I mean, we're all here for different purposes, aren't we? And mine is to create new things that didn't exist before that help other people. And I
Yeah.
think I'm so blessed to have that as my life purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, let's dive into to this book, Channel Soul Messages, that I've read. It's a journey through the chakras as well.
Mm, mm.
But I'm gonna keep to your parts of the book, and we'll see
Okay.
where we go, right? Uh, and I can't help to think about, because not on the last chapter, but the last again episode here in Tab, we were talking to another channel who were talking about New Earth, and so I can't help to
Mhm,
notice that you're also talking
mm.
about a new phase of the Earth.
Yes.
Can you just comment
Yes.
on that languaging? What is that about?
Well, I listened to the other podcast that you mentioned, and there's a huge overlap between what she was saying and what Spirit have been telling me. Not
Wow.
just in this book, but in another book that I'm in the process of channeling as well. And it's really very interesting. And what I will do, I'll just explain what they meant by this book. And if you're happy for me to, I'll just read out a little bit of the other book that I'm still in the process of working on, because I just find it absolutely fascinating
Oh, I'd
what they're
love to.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the world's energies are changing, and new people are coming down. That so the children being born now compared to the children of 100 years ago are very different, and they're here to take the world forward, to create the new systems. The old systems are breaking down, which we're seeing very obviously at the moment. Even things like what's happening in Hollywood and things being exposed, and we're moving away from mainstream media to other ways of getting information, and we don't have to accept what's put in front of us just here. We can look beyond it and see to some extent what's really going on in the world.
Yeah.
So the younger people are here to bring through the new education systems, the health systems, and so on. What has been happening, as far as I understand, is there was a huge awakening in 2020 where a lot of people started to see beyond what's placed in front of us all the time. And I know that a lot of people found the new energies either quite difficult to live in and so departed the earth, possibly just because the energies were too much, or they departed the earth so that they can help from elsewhere, from a higher vibrational stance. So that happened 2020 to 2024. There's been a big shift in the world's energy. Um, what I've been told a lot is that as we're going through ascension, a lot of us are going to go more inwards, and we're going to be finding out what our true purpose is rather than what society tells us what we should be doing and how we should be living. We're going to be living a lot more authentically. And that as we go through this ascension, just to be aware that it might not necessarily be that easy. You may be at odds with what traditionally has been going on, and a lot of people don't like change, and so they will fight against it. So those who are coming for the newer energies will have the older 3D energies to cope with and the difficulties of growing as a person. What I do believe is that as we do this, we can see things from a different vantage point. We can see challenges, we can see what they're about, we can see the negative aspects of life, we can understand them, we can raise ourselves to higher vibrations. And the world for those people who've gone through this process looks quite different to the people who are staying more in the 3D version of the world. So that's what they tell
Ah,
me for this book. Can I just read a bit from the other book that I've channeled?
yes, I'd love to. What's the title of it? Do you have that yet?
Well, the working title is Our Spirit World.
Wonderful.
And what Spirit have done is they've taken me into the spirit world and explained what it is and the different levels and what it looks like and who's there and what's the purposes of the beings that are there. And then it goes on to talk about other things that are happening in the world, like what is war and who are the new children that are coming through. And I don't know where the book's going to take me, and I don't know how far through it I am. I've been working on it for 3.5 years and I'm still
Really?
going.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So before you read, I'm just really curious to hear you say they took me there in a way. How, in a dream, or how did it come to you? How did you go there?
Oh, okay. So when I'm channeling,
Yeah.
so when I channel on my own, I go through a kind of ritual of getting myself into the energies and formatting the energy around me and within me. And it was a case of channeling where they took me mentally, I guess, or spiritually from a soul level into the spirit world. And they kept saying, we're giving it to you in a way that you can understand with your kind of limited human brain. We
Yeah.
can only understand so much. But it was absolutely fascinating. And what I really like about spirituality is it helps me make sense of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And the more that they reveal, the more I understand the world and what it's about. I mean, I haven't got the answer, but I understand more what
Yeah.
it's about and why I'm here and what we're all here to do.
Mm.
But yes, it's just amazing when you kind of leave this human world for a little while and go to something that's a really high vibration. It's a lovely place. Just even just being there, it's just lovely. And what they say, it's a bit like, do you know Narnia?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like where the kids go into Narnia and they go there for many years sometimes, and they come back and no time has passed. And it's a bit like that. You go
Okay.
off to these other worlds and you come back and like, 5 minutes has passed.
So
Yeah.
it's similar to like a flow state where it's just outside of time and space in a way.
Yes.
But it
Yes.
sounds really good, and I really like your point, and that's also the undertitle here for the book, right? Like thriving in the world today. I mean
Yes.
that's the whole point, and I mean at least that's what makes it meaningful for me to listen to you, listen to a channel, uh, and care about these things. It's to make sense of what is going on, so we don't just
Mm,
go
mm.
into despair and fear
Yes.
around what's coming, but we
Exactly.
can actually see no, something is breaking through, something
Mm,
is actually here for us, and we're here for it. Yeah, so
yeah.
I'd love to hear what you would like to
Okay.
read from that book. Yeah.
Well, I'll just read out a little bit and then dip into other parts. I mean, because there's quite a lot of it, but I'm just going to start off. This is section 4, and they call it the losses. And it says, loss is helpful. Loss is a catalyst for those whose vibration is at an elevated level. Loss propels people where success and comfort do not. Loss can lead to greater advancement. As the souls operating at a higher frequency come to Earth and see that which is underutilized, they see the resulting loss to the human plane and they strive to make a difference. Those living in the old paradigm will not fully understand it and may see it as counterproductive. The Earth is going through a period of unsettledness while these two forces are at play, the old paradigm and the newer paradigm. The newer paradigm is a reincarnation of one of the original paradigms where those on Earth lived at a higher vibration. It's a challenge for the newer people coming through, living within the denseness of 3D existence while birthing the new reincarnated paradigm. Not all will carry through until completion and will depart the Earth plane for a period before returning stronger. There are waves of people coming through, each taking the Earth's ascension to an increasingly evolved level. The newer people have stronger connections with the spirit world. They frequent it regularly and easily and bring back knowledge and fortitude that's beneficial to human involvement. The veil between the worlds, the two worlds, is thin for them. As the generations progress, the development work continues and the sense of loss diminishes. The new sense will take over. Instead of loss, it will be fulfillment. Physical aspects will become less physical and more energetic as the vibration raises. Other beings from outside of Earth will now be able to access it and help with ascension. It will be Earth unlike that perceived by humans currently. The peaks will be flattened, the unrest will be calm, the darker energies will be transmuted, the song of stability will be present. I'll just dip into a few more. It's talking about, it's like a vortex of higher vibration that's sweeping us upwards. You will see aspects of people that were not previously visible to you. You will see into the density of the energy and it will look frightening as you don't recognize it. At these times, the world will not make sense. Ascension is not easy. Within your vortex, you adopt a coat of dissonant energy that makes the ride bumpier than it needs to be. No longer does that which is in the forefront of you dominate. You're able to see deeper aspects. You can easily tune into others who are at the same level. The goal is to work on deepening your own form of connection to all that is. There's an individual contract and a collective contract. And the collective contract is that we each sing a song that other souls can hear, and we tap into an invisible grid of energy that connects us to others. Right, I'm just going to read one last bit.
Right.
I asked a question, what will the new worlds look like? And they said there will be 6 types of people. The new leaders, those operating from a sense of groundedness, those who put procedures into place, those holding the energy connection for others, the younger people bringing forth the ascension of the earth, those who are departing with wisdom to help from another plane, and those who are holding the earth back. So it's an interesting time that we're in at the moment.
Oh, but it is. Wow.
Mm.
Okay, I have a few questions for what you just said, and also it's really, I'm really appreciating it. Yeah, appreciating those words. Um, so you had something about what would make it bumpier. I just didn't quite get that.
Yes.
I was curious, what was that?
Okay, let me read out just one more bit then.
Yeah.
Um, okay. This is an unusual time in the Earth's history when strong energies are at play. They bump against each other and will eventually reach equilibrium. Imagine a container full of rocks that's being shaken. What happens to the rocks? They move and hit against each other, and the energy is fractious. Some may have parts broken off them, some may break into smaller parts, and some may remain unchanged. What happens when the shaking stops? The rocks settle in a different format than before, and eventually the fractious energy decreases. Is it better than before? It's different and requires a different way of being. It's not the end, it's the new way of being for a period of time.
Mm.
So I think those of us who've come through to do this work will find it a little bit bumpy, but it's like, what's that saying? You can't make an omelette without breaking an egg. We have to have this bumpiness for the newer energies to emerge.
There's no way to avoid it. Yeah. And you were also saying something about change. People don't like change. I mean, that's because it's scary and it's not familiar.
Yes.
And we are creatures of habit. So even someone like me who's really big on transformation and I love all of that, yeah, I get really scared as well. I don't want to go into something I don't know what's going to happen next, right? It's usually not the choice you make. But then again, when we know it, we know this,
Yes.
we know that it's
Yes.
coming. We don't know what's
Yes.
coming, but this is giving us some good ideas around it. And I'm also noticing the thing you were saying about we each have our song
Yes. Yes.
that to share and to connect from. I really like that. Do you think is it going to be easier to be heard in that we each hear
Um,
each other?
for those who are reaching that level of ascension, yes. What spirit describe it as we bring that energy down. If we're in balance, then our main role, they keep telling me this, I've been saying it for the last 2 or 3 years. We have two general roles. One is our visible role. So that might be our work or our role in hobbies or interests or our role as a parent or whatever those visible roles are. But our main work is invisible. And that's where we bring down the energy. And if we're in balance, we give out the energy at a really high vibration. And those people who are attuned to who we are and what we're about, they can hear. It's like a song that we sing that only some people can hear. But as we all raise up, we can hear each other's songs more clearly. And they have shown me like a grid, like grid lines around the earth where energy can travel. And those people on the grid lines at the same frequency as you will be able to hear it. It's fascinating stuff, really.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm having all of these images where I'm in the universe and it's uh, I feel for my personal journey as well that wow, things has really opened up in recent
Mm,
years in terms of
mm,
feeling connected to everything there is, if you can put it like that.
mm.
I'm not sure. Can I ask you? I have a list of questions as well, but it's just interesting to
Okay.
ask to what you're talking to right now as well. Can I ask you what ascension is, or is that too big of a question?
Well, that is a rather large question.
Yeah.
Um, so my understanding, and I've spirit keep telling me, we only give you as much as your human brain can cope with because we know we do have limited brain. Well, I'm told fairly often that we have limited brains. But from my understanding of what they have told me is that basically we're raising our vibration much more away from the 3D world, much more away from the level of control of the powers that be, so that we're bringing forth our own individual power much more easily, and our own individual mission or life purpose, and our ability to rise beyond the physical within the confines of the earth as it is at the moment. So my understanding, at least from this book, other book that I'm channeling, is the earth was created as a place for souls to evolve and go through this ascension process. And then as we reach that, there will be no need for the earth, and then earth will no longer exist. Other planets will exist, but the earth at some point in our future will have served no purpose because it'll have reached ascension.
Okay. I, I feel it might be a stupid question, but I'm just gonna ask you anyway. Maybe especially if it's stupid, I'm gonna ask you. Uh, so, so are we gonna move to another planet? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I didn't get that answer. I didn't get that feeling that we didn't need to,
No.
because the Earth is the hardest planet to live on. We've done the hardest work, so we don't need to be on another planet, but that would be a soul choice.
Right. Okay. Ah, man. Yeah, interesting times. And yeah, we don't even know about the timeline in all of this. I feel just going into the next year here, stuff is gonna change a lot.
Mm.
But obviously, it's not gonna be Ascension just like that with the new year. That's not what I'm expecting. But we do see astrologically with the Neptune that's conjuncting the North Node, and you can say that it is now, and it is coming to a tight conjunction as well. But even now, that means that a lot of creative people have left the earth. That's an
Mm.
interpretation of it. Yeah. Um, and so it really makes sense in conjunction with what you're saying, that not only did they choose to leave before a shift, but maybe actually a lot of these souls wanted to help.
Mm. Mm.
Maybe that was part
Yeah.
of the deal.
Yes, it is, so that they can help from elsewhere, and without the denseness of the human world, they can go to the higher vibrational place and help from there, and maybe come back as a higher vibrational being next time. It's
Mhm.
very interesting because I gave a reading to a woman about 3 years ago, and I think she was maybe late 60s, and she said, um, and she's works in the spiritual field, and she says, I'm dying, and I can't heal myself, and I don't want to leave my mother behind. And so I asked Spirit what was going on, and she was actually a reincarnation of Merlin. And I was told that she needed to go and help from a higher level place, and that's why she couldn't heal herself. And it's very interesting because Spirit said, choose when you want to go, and then hold your mum's hand, and you'll both go together, and you'll both now be helping from a higher level vantage point. And I'm hearing that fairly often now, that people are departing either because they can't cope in the newer energies, or because they want to help from elsewhere, which is great to hear, because if it's a loved one that's gone, it's good to hear that, I mean, they never go, do they? But it's good to hear that they've gone for a bigger purpose to help us while we're going through this period.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that is makes it meaningful somehow, even though it's a huge
Yes.
loss, of course. Then still, there's a meaning to it. Then, um, okay. So speaking of the humans, our limitations, you have a quote in the book where you say, "You humans," that's you're challenging, um,
Yeah.
you're channeling here, but you say you humans have an interesting turn of phrase, which is fear of missing out. And that is
Mm.
something worth exploring because it is a major issue in what you allow into your funnel.
Mm.
Can you talk about that? What's going on with that? Because I definitely recognize the fear of missing out.
No, I understand that. And that was in the section of the book has the 7 of us each have written a chapter, and within that chapter, we each look at 14 different life issues, like grief or personal sovereignty. And one of them is information overload. So each of the 14 topics is looked at from 7 angles related to the chakras that everybody has channeled. So one of those issues is information overload, and Spirit in my chapter talks about having a funnel of information and what you allow in and then what you allow out. And what you allow out is a lot easier than what you allow in. And what's happening is there is so much out there, so much information out there, especially now because we've moved into the information age. But one of the other aspects within the chapter is discernment, and how much do you allow in? And what Spirit have told me is that those who have a level of control within the world do not want people reaching the higher vibrations. So if I can just very quickly show you this,
Yeah.
the
So,
vibrational frequency chart.
right. So for the listeners, that's what you just said. It's a higher frequency chart. Did you call
It's
it?
a vibrational frequency chart,
Right.
so that we, as humans, well, everything vibrates, but if we just look at human behavior, we vibrate at different levels. And the highest that we can vibrate at when we're operating at our absolute best, it's all measurable scientifically in hertz, and the highest is 1,000 hertz. And the lowest that we can vibrate at and still be functioning is about 15 to 20 hertz. Neutral is 250. Anything below that is negative. Anything above that is positive. So we aim to vibrate at the higher vibrations of love and peace and harmony and so on. Those who are at the moment or who have been in control of the world do not want people moving up into the higher frequencies because they're less controllable. And as we become more enlightened and we can make our own decisions and we can see past what's being put in front of us that is not necessarily for our own good. So one of the ways that that happens is providing people with more and more and more and more and more. And it's like the opposite of the concept of enough. When you have the concept of enough, you live a lot more in peace. But if those who want to control you see that you are moving into the high vibrations of enough, that removes their level of control. So then they have to put in, you're not enough. You need to have more. You need to have more. You need to have more. But there's never an end to the more. So it's a societal pressure that you need more, you need to be better, you need to have better. And that's where the fear of missing out comes from. So we've got to be really discerning into what we put into our funnel so that it's for our highest good.
Right. And when you say more and more, are you talking about information or anything?
Anything really. I mean, information, obviously. I mean, we all go on our phones, don't we? And adverts pop up, and this video pops up, and you're down a rabbit warren before you've even started. Yeah, I mean, because and they're there and they're fast, and there's lots of them, and we need to live faster and faster, but we don't. We don't necessarily. We need to have a look at the concept of enough. What is enough to satisfy our soul and help us live in the higher frequencies?
I really want to take that message in. I really want to stay there for a little while. That is really good. I mean, it's a double-edged sword here for me because I'm I'm a publisher, right? I
Yes.
publish in English and in Danish and send information out there, and it's my passion and sometimes frustration when I can't be heard, right? Speaking about hearing each other's song, there's that part of it. But then I'm also a consumer, we all are, and I'm feeling the overload as well, and I'm feeling what you're talking about with the acceleration, that it's getting harder and harder for me to relax. Like I need
Mm.
to put in
Mm.
very intentional pauses.
Mm.
And when I don't, my body is making a note of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Our physical body doesn't like it.
No. Yeah. Yeah. So it's double in that way, that, like you were saying earlier, that we are now making this shift in the medias, that more are going to be, I'm not sure that's what you said, but that's my thought of it, that more are going to self-publish. So it's not
Mm.
someone above who's going to decide what goes and what
Yes.
doesn't. So as
Yes.
much as possible, people are going to publish on their own. Um, and yet, yeah, I don't know. There's no answers here. I'm just reflecting. It's because it's
There's no
also
end.
like, it's also a little bit. Is it too much? Right. That's the question. Do we just need to
So
be tired for a while?
I have a concept which is I call it the continuum theory of life, that most things in life, maybe everything falls on a continuum. So if we're looking at information overload or any aspect of life, there's a continuum, isn't there? So at one end, we've got massively too much, and at the other end, not enough. And you've got to choose based on you where on the continuum best suits you. So for some people, that might be an awful lot of information. And for some people, and that wouldn't be information overload for them. But for some people, it might be a tiny amount. So only a bit more would be information overload for them. So you just got to work out where you are on the continuum. So for you as a producer and a consumer, maybe you need a lot more than the average person, but that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I
Mm.
guess it's just getting to me that I'm contributing to this fast-paced world in a way, but then I don't you think that we should just follow what's in our heart, right? Sing that song. Go with,
Absolutely.
go with the
Absolutely.
passion, and then it's up for everyone to choose what to tune into at different times in their life.
Absolutely. And a lot of people obviously like the energy that you are emanating because you're getting a lot of people tuning into what
Yeah.
you're providing, and it's very high vibrational information that you're providing.
I feel it's important. I feel
It
it's really
is.
important. Yeah. Yeah, that we're getting these messages out. And when I was reading the book, it's a process. I'm not even done with the book yet. Luckily, you have the first chakra.
I do. I do.
So I read that, but I'm not. I think I'm at the throat chakra or something. And the reason why it's taking a while is because it makes me think, right? And also I
Mm.
feel like repeating the affirmations in there, and yeah, it's good stuff. It's Yeah, so I want to contribute to that getting out in the world.
Thank you.
Okay, next on my list to ask you. Um, yeah, so we were talking about this just before pressing record, so it's a fun question. Because in the book they say you could see your entire life if you wanted to, though the vast majority of humans choose not to. And I just was curious about how we can see our entire life.
Yes, I was curious about that one too. So when I channel information, I generally don't know who I'm channeling, but because I've got myself into a high vibrational state, I trust that what is coming through is of the right quantity and of the right kind of status for what I'm here to do.
Can I ask
So,
about that, Kim?
yes,
Is that regular? Because usually people isn't it like a lot of channels will kind of know who's what entity or what they're channeling? Is that
um,
common?
I think it varies. Some people know exactly who they're channeling, and they may channel the same being forever. Some people know sometimes, and some people might not know. So I don't know, but I don't feel any need to know. Occasionally I do know, and they will let me know who they are, or sometimes I ask to channel a certain person, like my father, for example.
Right.
But for me, I quite like not knowing, because from what I've been told in this other book that I'm channeling, if we're channeling, say, a being from the spirit world, then humans like to see beings as an entity with a name,
Yeah.
but their energy, and they may not be in the form of an entity, and they may not have a name.
Right.
So I'm just trusting that I'm tapping into energies.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. Just
So,
out of
right.
curiosity. Okay. So, so you got some answers from this energy.
So the part that you're talking about, so when I channel, it, I'm aware of what I'm channeling. I don't do trance channeling. I do conscious channeling. So I'm aware of what I'm bringing through, but it doesn't always necessarily go into my conscious brain in a way that I can understand. So the part that you're talking about, can I? It was from the discernment chapter. Let me just see if I can read it out. Right. So it's about discernment, and I'll just read out the section where it came from. As a human, it's hard to make an overall decision, and it's easier to make a decision based on where you are at your particular stage in life. The more beneficial yet much harder way is to make decisions based on your overall life. You could see your entire life if you wanted to, though the vast majority of humans choose not to.
Yes, that's it.
So my conscious mind doesn't understand that. So I went back to spirit and I said, what does that mean? And this is the answer they gave, and I'm still not sure I completely understand it. And they said, you could see your entire life if you wanted to, but this would only be available to a small percentage of humans who are extremely highly evolved.
Okay.
And it will be by tapping into another version of your soul that is having another existence. So it could be you as a human in the future, it could be you as a soul on another planet, for example. And it's by tapping into that other version of your soul and looking at it from what they call the future. However, most humans, if they were to see that, couldn't then not try and alter it. So that's why they said it's not something that most humans could do, and probably they shouldn't do it anyway.
Right. Yeah, because I've been working meditatively with jumping timelines. And so it's definitely with the purpose of altering it.
Yes. Yes.
Changing it
And
in
that's a
some way.
temptation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard to just see it, just if you intend to change stuff.
Yes.
You would
Yes.
have to just be able to sit back and observe.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. Okay, good one. Okay. Uh, so I think the last question here from the book, at least, is about the two aspects of loneliness.
Mm.
I
Mm.
thought you were talking about something pretty profound there. And yeah, it's a really great way this book is structured. I haven't seen that before. It's pretty, I don't know if it's normal where you are in Australia, but it's, yeah, that's really, really good. So that you all go through certain topics, and yeah, this theme about loneliness is
Mm.
um
Yeah. So
highlighted.
we all channeled on every topic, and so there will be 7 different angles of loneliness. Mine's from the base chakra point of view. So what Spirit is saying is that we choose our challenges. When we're in the spirit world, before we decide to come down, we choose our challenges. And when we're in the spirit world, these challenges look very doable. And then we come to earth and we realize this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But fortunately, what we also bring down, or what we endow ourselves with, is an ability to deal with it should we so choose to do so. So loneliness is a challenge that many people have brought down. And when you look at what I was mentioning before about people who are in control and wanting to keep us in the lower vibrations, that's all part of the same issue. Because if those people who want control over the masses want more control, it's better if people are individual rather than working as a group and working to their highest potential. So if they can engineer it so that people are more lonely, they engineer societal structures so that people are more on their own than they ever used to be. We've gone away from, and at least in this society, is people living in the larger family groups, at least in part. And then when things are in place so that people are kept lower than they need to be, so like financially more difficult, unable to heat their homes and all of these kind of things, then what people are finding is that they feel very alone. And part of that is because society is engineering that to some level. The other aspect is that we've become disconnected from source energy and from who we really are, because being who we really are is more powerful than society wants us to be. And so it's on a path that, you're lesser and lesser and lesser, and then you end up on your own, and then you're lonely. And I understand that. So what Spirit is saying, at least in my section of the book, is to overcome this, well, is to firstly to understand how all this has come about, that it's not any level of failure on your part. And the way around this is to connect into who you really, really are. And if you are a little bit different from mainstream society, then own that. Own that. I was given a message a while ago that the majority of people are on the main superhighway of life, and often to be your true self, you need to go off on a side road. And a lot of people don't like going off on side roads because it requires them to grow as a person. But there's really interesting people on side roads. I love going on side roads. You meet the most interesting people there. But you really know to get over the loneliness. And for some people, getting over loneliness may be to meet one person who's in their life. It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge change. It's to connect with who you really are. And then as you do that, you raise up the vibrations, the vibrational frequency level. And this does not take 5 minutes, as they say in the book. This takes a period of time. But as you raise up, the loneliness can only exist in the lower frequencies. So as you raise yourself up, you're emanating a different energy so that the feelings of loneliness have to fall away because they don't exist in that frequency. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Both
Yeah. So
parts of
that
that.
is the way around it. Sounds easy. I can say it in a few sentences, but it's a lot of inner work. But it's doable because we've brought through the ability to deal with these challenges.
Yeah, and it helps to think this way if loneliness is coming up, feeling alone, no one, I don't have any friends, or no one have time for me right now. It's a good place to go. What you're just saying to navigate it. That what I need is connection to source first and foremost,
Mm.
and to stay. Yeah, I'm translating it, I guess, to inner work and raising your vibration, because then loneliness cannot exist, because then we know that we are part of everything. I do belong.
Mm.
Uh, and then also the first thing you were saying about, yeah, I guess the structural side of it. I'm definitely having thoughts that I'm not able to say. not,
Okay.
not because I'm not allowed, but just because
There's no words for them.
I don't have words for them. Exactly. Yeah, but something around how the society and where I am in Denmark, it's structured that way, that there's less and less responsibility for well, at least built in, at least inherent responsibility for your blood family, for example. And it's more, you can, then there's government where, you can apply for stuff if you're in need, but then many people are not eligible for that. They're not in those fixed boxes in order to receive the help. And so
Mm.
stuff like that can make people very lonely as well when
Yes.
you're not one of those target groups that the government has chosen to help. This is just stuff that's going through my mind because I'm also in
Mm.
social work. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yes. I mean, it's all related. Everything's related, isn't it? But it's all related. And just one other thing is that I see it when I read, do you call them agony ants? The agony ants column in a newspaper, for example, and people
Right.
will say, I'm lonely, and they say, well, go and join this group or join this group. That's not the answer, because if you're going along with the unhealed version of yourself, it's not going to make any difference. But if you go along with the healed version of yourself in this higher vibration, that's much more likely to work.
I think that's really important. So are you saying don't go looking for groups?
Not until you're ready, because you're just going to get the same response. If you're going along with the giving out the vibes of loneliness and I'm not good enough and I don't have confidence and all of those vibes, then you're not going to really do any better than you have done up to now. But if you do the inner work and you don't go out specifically looking for groups to stop you being less lonely, you're going along at a healed version of yourself because you're attracted to groups or whatever it is that now match your newer vibration. And with that newer vibration, people are hearing a different song that you're singing and they're drawn to your song.
It's complicated though, right? Because I can be my best version when I'm also in community, right?
Yes,
So it's
yes.
complicated like that. I can't just sit here and maybe, I don't know, can I sit alone and come into a high vibration and then go out and meet people? Or is it not
Oh,
so when I'm in connection that my vibration is gonna,
exactly. Yeah. So you've got to find your way. There
yeah.
isn't our way or the way, there is your way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Ah, really good. Um, okay, let's see. I have a few more notes, but I also want to make time for looking into your birth chart a little bit.
Okay.
Just interesting, right? How does a birth chart of a channel look like? How many years have you been doing this?
Channeling.
Yeah.
Well, probably all my life without realizing it, but formally about when did I? Since maybe 2011.
Right. Okay.
Mm.
So just when Neptune officially went into Pisces. Okay. Yeah, well, it is what is most standing out to me in your birth chart is your 12th house. So that's the house of Pisces and the flow and the spirit level, to put it like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it's completely wrong. But then you are an Aries, right?
I
So
am.
what are we
I
gonna do
am.
with that? That's pretty different energies. But then the Aries is the way that you get this out there. I mean, and put it into life rather than just have it in your own personal dreams, for example, but that you act on what you're hearing. For you, it's writing it down or whatever you do with it. But it's like
Yes.
there's
Yes.
action put
Yes.
to what that you're sensing. Yeah. So that's really important. Um,
Yeah.
and and but I guess a lot also uncertainty in your life in that way that in some ways it's a chart of someone who uh, who's like can be self-employed and do a lot of projects, creative projects on your own, coming from your own creativity, and yet also a lot of uncertainty because of that 12th house. And and so yeah, I'm not sure. It's up to you, but it's not up to you, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? I guess it's coming
Yeah.
through you, through your personality, but then also, you must have many experiences with also just being led and not knowing the way exactly. That
Of course,
yeah,
yes, of course. I've always felt that I was two people, and it was like there's two versions of me, and they're both fighting to be on stage, and one of them won out all the time. And many years ago, I had a reading from someone, and she's very interested in people's names. And she described my first name and my middle name. So Kim is my first name, and that's a person who's out there doing things twice as good as everybody else and three times as fast. And I went, yeah, that's probably me. And then she described my middle name, which is Elena, Ilena. And she said, that's the gypsy person. That's the person who likes to go out and dance. And I went, that's me too, but she's hidden away most of the time. And she described those two people that I always thought I was, and which person do you put on the stage? And sometimes Kim's on the stage when she shouldn't be, and that's probably why, I find things quite difficult at times. I've got the wrong version of me on stage.
interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. And the going out extroverted part is definitely the Aries we see. And yet
Mm.
in the 12th house, you also need to retrieve a lot and not be that outgoing. So
Yes,
I
I'm an
guess,
introvert. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's so an introvert, but with quite an self-expression as well, I assume.
Yes, I've got to be out there, a bit like you. This, I'm a channel to get stuff out there. You can't not do it, can you? I keep
Yeah,
saying, I think I was born with a pen in my hand because I can't not write. There's stuff that needs to come through me to
yeah,
get out because I am a channel to give out
yes,
information.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I like the analogy with the song.
Yes.
Like, this is the way that I sound. This is the way that I sound. I can't change it. I mean, you can add to the song, you can shift your taste and I guess skills. You can fine tune your skills, but it's kind of you. This is how we sound. Yeah,
You're singing a very strong song.
yeah, yeah.
You found your song and you're singing it.
Yes, yeah. More of that. More of that. I mean, more of that when it's not so blended with how we need to look on the internet and the
Mm,
superficial part of it. That's
mm,
my heart is really longing for just more naturalness.
mm. Yes.
Are you with me?
I get that. Completely
Okay.
agree. There's so much that's not real, and
Yeah,
people, presenting in a way that it's like they've got a shell, and I feel I want to knock on this shell and say, "Are you in there?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who's the real you?"
Yeah. And that's from that space we can connect truly to each other.
Mm.
So,
Yes. Yeah. Authentic. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I want to hear you to your like final comments. If I have just one curiosity more, it's just this wording of going into the void.
Mm.
Um, can you say something just from that cues? I'm not saying a lot, but it's just something that I noticed that I'm like, oh, what's that? Where is that? How do we do that?
And that's when spirits say, take time out and go into something away from your normal hustle and bustle of everyday life. And people do that very differently, but you know what's going to satisfy your soul. And so for many people, it could be meditation. It could just be going for a walk. One of my friends does it by doing jigsaws, just so that everything around her disappears and she's just got to focus. Could be going for a walk on the beach. I'm in a few days' time, I'm going away on my own, just for 3 days, just to be away. Not that I don't like my life, but sometimes you just need to go and recharge. And so spirit talk about being in the void, away from the 3D world for a while.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because then that's the retreating I was just talking about with the 12th house. I was just imagining the void is some kind of, yeah, where is that? But the way you're describing it, it's I mean, you're describing what you do to get there, but what is it actually?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I'm assuming it's going to be different for everybody.
Okay.
Just where a place where you feel you can most connect to your soul, however that is for you. They keep saying your way is your way, and especially because I get asked a fair bit about channeling, and people will say, "Oh, I watch so and so on YouTube, and I don't do anything like that." Well, no, you don't. Your way is your way, and we have to really own what our soul is asking us to do, and really honor that.
Mm, Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, I can't help thinking of I'm seeing a Netflix series at the moment. I actually don't remember the name, but it's like the Dead Boy Detectives. It's about Dead Boys detectives, and there's a channeler in there, and she's like holding on to something, and then her eyes is completely rolling, and then she goes into a void, I guess.
Yes.
It's very dramatic, like that. I guess it's good for when you have to describe it visually because your eyes are turned inward. Her eyes,
Mm,
I'm not sure, but that's what I'm sensing. Like her eyeballs are turning around. So now it's inward focus. I don't know.
yes.
Does that make sense to you? That kind of
Yes, I get that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Mm. Okay, what's the frequency in the void?
Oh, I'm assuming that must be up at 1,000.
Okay, yeah,
I'm assuming that's enlightenment or
yeah.
as near to it as that you can get.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Mm,
So the whole need for retrieving is really to just tap into that void, and then you can go back into the world. I mean, because you were talking about the 3D. I'm not very good at finishing this interview, I feel, but I just keep having questions. Just one more. Uh, you're talking about the 3D versus what? What's the what can you call the state that we want to be in?
Well, people talk about dimensions, so like 3D, 5D, 12D, and so on. That's something I channeled a while back from Spirit was that, I mean, that's human words for it. They just talk about energy. They said it's all just energy and what level of energy that you need to tap into or would like to tap into to be your highest self. So it's energy. I mean, that's what I do when I'm channeling. I'm tapping into some level of energy. Everything's energy, and it's just which energy are you tapping into. And
Okay.
it's good to take time away from the energies that are not beneficial to us and find the energy vibrational frequency that is
So rather than living in the 3D, remembering that you are and everything is energy.
energy.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Kim Chamberlain, do you have anything just in the end you feel like sharing with people from your heart to our hearts?
Well, I would just like to say a huge thank you to the 6 other women who jointly wrote the book with me. It's been an absolutely amazing experience, and just seeing what their channeling is and their take on these different life issues. I've read the book because I was the person who instigated it, and I kind
Oh,
of made sure it came to fruition. I was the one who proofread it about 1,000 times. And every time I read it, I go, oh, I didn't notice that the first time because it's so deep.
yeah.
It's so deep. And everything that you could possibly need really for life is in this book. And all they do is they give 14 different life issues, but really it's just as a taster of how you can approach any life issue from a different point of view. I talk about it like beach balls. You get these beach balls that have got different stripes on them, and you might look at it and say, it's a red and white ball, or it's a green and blue ball, or it's a yellow and purple ball. And we're all looking at the same ball, but we're looking at it from different angles. And so that I think would be my main message is know that there's many angles to look at life issues from, and maybe your way of looking at it has served you well up to now. and maybe it's worthwhile having a look at different coloured stripes on this issue, because we all need our own strategies for coping in the world. It's not an easy life to live on Earth. It's not easy. So we all need some kind of help to go through. So if you want to think of a stripy beach ball and think, here's a difficult issue, how else can I look at it? Then that's a good way to approach it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. I love that different perspective. And we definitely get that in the book. And yet it intertwines really well. And I'm happy to hear, and I guess I'm not surprised to hear that you instigated it. That's an Aries kind of thing to do.
It is. It is. I can't not do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it because, like you say, it is really deep and powerful. And so it's both the chakras and then also all of this information about life in addition. I feel it's not
Yes.
they
Yes.
could
Yeah.
reduce the chakras, right? There's so much life mastery in there as well. Information about life mastery. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kim Chamberlain, for being with us.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.